Hello, and welcome to another chapter of a book taken right off the shelves at the heart of the Jakuls. As always, I'm your accomplished host, Lothran, and there's so much more info to relay. So let's get back to it, shall we? Go grab a filling meal, settle into a cozy spot, and pay careful attention to Fleet Part 20, Command Decision. Cam sat, sheltering his head in his hands, all his people filtering out of the room. He wondered if he'd made the right choice to tell them to stop everything. At least with something to do, everyone had purpose. Now they all sort of wandered around listless boats in calm waters, drifting ever further apart from each other. You look like my youngest, right after one of his brothers broke his favorite toy. Vildar walked over and flipped a metal bucket to sit and stare at Cam in the younger man's resolute despondency. Come to gloat, Vildar? Cam asked, letting more than a little ire spill into his voice. I've failed here more than most. No gloating, I'm afraid, from me, Cam. How many times? Cam asked, still holding a sharpened edge to his words. 6 or 7 at least. Vildar rubbed at the muscles of his lower back. Never gave up, though. So you are here to gloat, then? Cam asked angrily. No, Cam, I'm not. I would be here to help, but... But you're an archivist first, just like all the others I've ever known. Cam fell back into a glooming silence. It must have been difficult for them to know and have access to all the data and tech, and just watch those beside them suffer and die preposterously short lives. For what? Nothing more than the pride of a few church deacons. Big fat deal, in my opinion. What would you know about it? Cam shot back to Vildar, glaring at the other man. I know their reports came in on time every month for the entire duration, Vildar replied solemnly. For 3,000 years, their reports came in, and you and the rest of the high and mighty did nothing to help those in need. Cam stood up, shouting in Vildar's direction. The archive didn't even know where they were till at least 800 years ago, Cam. By then, early Deramore had already closed in around your world. We couldn't do anything about it. 'Cause you were too busy sending people to their deaths in Gregory? Cam hurled the accusation right at Vildar. I made suggestions, Cam. Just suggestions. Keep telling yourself that. Maybe it'll sound and feel true if you repeat it enough. What I and the archive are guilty of or not isn't what you should be worried about, Cam. Vildar stood up, the rage boiling through his features, almost spilling over, but he held on and calmed himself. He spoke again after a brief period. How are you going to fix this problem, Cam? How am I going to fix my designs and the ship I am bonded for life from turning into living bombs? Cam pointed at the calmly hovering trike beside them. I have no fucking clue. I'm not even sure it's possible. Explain it to me, Cam, Vildar almost ordered, trying to keep as much rage out of his voice as possible. It's the spacing. Thazon and his engineers didn't factor it in. Not as much as I did, anyway. The true cores, even depleted ones, don't like to be within a certain distance of each other. What about the old linking power supplies? They never had this problem, did they? They were fighting. In the leash system, a more powerful core was always fighting a weaker one to pull the power out of it. You can't get as much power out of the system, but it's a lot safer. So, why does this one go so wrong? Vildar walked over to a section of polished, smooth, white painted metal, picking up a stray bit of charcoal to hand toward Cam. These 3 circles are true cores. This is the wiring. It's the network. Cam fell into explain mode much more easily than he held on to his anger. When the ship or pilot requests power for any system, it jostles the cores, tilting some of them toward each other. You can't see it, but each core has a field around it, a bubble. My father called it the personal space bubble, PSB for short. Shouldn't there be more than microshards in the power networks? Vildar asked as a few other spare engineers began to gather around them. No, if you're requesting under half of the power of the system, there won't be a jostle. Over half, which is what the javelins are designed to do most of the time, you're always going to be jostling the cores. That's why the shards develop so fast in the javelins. Well, why are those shards so small in Trike? He's been active for near half a year. Cam sighed, and then he quickly sketched out a set of 8 circles. Trike has access to a lot more power. A lot more. And we've been fully bonded from the start. Trike takes care of himself the way I do, or you do, because of that bond. He wants to be alright, so he dedicated power to reflexively dampening as many jostles as possible. Could we just set up a system to do that in the javelins, sir? One of the other engineers in the small yet growing crowd asked of him. That's why I ran to examine Trike when I did. It's still occurring in Trike, so even that isn't enough. Cam hung his head in defeat. So, what about us setting up a collar and then secure it? You're not listening. We'd never get enough power out of the system, Vildar. No, I meant... Let me have the coal for a second. Vildar drew out his idea. We merged the 2 types of systems. The old leashing system, but around all the cores, while still networking them all together to share the burden so that you get more power, but no jostling. No, you're not listening. Trike puts 4 or 5 times the energy into that effect, and it only slows the creation of the microshards. In a javelin, even that, it wouldn't be enough. The Resilient probably has a dozen of these microshards in it right now. Wait, sir! One of the young engineers came up to the front of the crowd. My last assignment was at Thomire Shipyard. We built almost all the frigates for Daramore. What of it? Cam asked as he handed over the coal to the kid. Well, they're armored in Daramath, where Daramore gets its name. The metal cools insanely fast. While we cut it, we have to heat it with these depleted core-powered Fred slicer tools. They take 2 men just to hold steady and 4 to operate. But every day we have to take them apart and clean out the shards, because there isn't any other option. And these are the only tools hot enough to cut Daramath. You have my attention? Cam stepped away from his spot, controlling what was written on the wall. Vildar moved as well and motioned for the young man to make his mark. He scrawled as he talked. Well, I arrived here because I made, one of these and used it. It didn't work well, or maybe it worked too well. The kid drew a set of funnels that led off of all the points of an octahedron, the same shape as the depleted cores. My version had so much extra energy because there was no more interference with the microshards, and that it melted a slab of Daramath and made it unusable. And then, since I forgot to put on a regular on my modded Frez, it sort of blew up, and then me and the boys were lucky no one was killed or hurt. And he shrugged as he stood there before everyone, looking a little awkward. So they demoted you and sent you here. Pretty much, Vildar. But if we cut and tune Umbra plates like I have in this cross-section and combine it with the collars and then link all the cores together, Cam began, we'll have the best of both worlds, all the power and all the safety, but Umbra won't do for the collar anymore. Why not, sir? The young engineer looked confused now. If we tune the Umbra plates into the funnels, then we have to use a different metal for the outer surface of the funnel. But since we must tune the cores when we network them, we also have to be able to tune the collars. Meaning you need a third Vu metal for the collars, Vildar supplied. We might be able to make an alloy of Ethagar and Islir, if the boy can really build a Frez splicer like he suggests. Another engineer chimed in from the crowd. Does that alloy even have a name yet? Vildar asked into their number. It's only theoretical, but maybe Ethlir if we're just, going for speed. I mean, we've known about it for 300 years, just no one knew how to get the metal that hot. The elder, gray-bearded man, missing his left arm, pushed up to the front of the group. Graucus, sir, of 4th Engineers. Been on the front lines for near a decade till this happened. Never heard of the tools they use to cut the Daramath. Always thought they were scavenging some from Vu site or some such thing. But if the boy thinks he can heat up as much as he says, we might be able to make a blast furnace, line it with Zothamire, that stuff never heats up anyway, and mix the alloy in that. Will it be strong enough? Cam asked of the old salt. Sure, not as flexible as Umbra, but a whole lot more dense. What are you all standing around for? Cam shouted into the group of gathered engineers. If you want a chance at eating in the next month, we all gotta work like men possessed. Cam began handing out crews to those that had placed themselves at the center of this glorious last-ditch effort of theirs. And so it is, our time together has once more come to a close. I hope each and every one of you enjoyed the tale as much as I have the telling of it. As always, I've been your knowledgeable host, Lothrin, and this was Fleet Part 20, Command Decision, another tale right from the heart of the Jakuls. And now, we must once again part ways. Corvos, guide them back along the proper path, back to the safety they know all too well.
Yes, sir, Lothrin. Oh. It's so good to see men figuring out problems and creating their own solutions, isn't it? I still got that job to do. A pleasant greeting and a fond farewell to each and all. Please leave all your comments, questions, and kindnesses down below. Don't you let me catch a single one of you leaving any of that mean, rude, or terrible stuff, though. You keep all that rubbish to yourselves. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to help us learn, spread, and grow. And don't forget that we strongly encourage each and every one of you to stay safe out there. See you again tomorrow for this week's discussion. Good night and good luck. You need